Joon was on his knees in front of the barricade, and the woman he loved was the first person to vote yes. The shelter gate was already half broken when Joon's own team decided the fastest way to save supplies was to throw him outside. Not the zombies. His team, the zombies, were just waiting behind the barricade with customer service patience. Like even they knew the paperwork was almost done. Joon was on his knees in the mud, hands tied, face bruised, while the people he'd protected for years stood above him and called it strategy. Daeho, his closest friend, pointed straight at him. He's been a freeloader since day one. The crowd turned fast. That's the scary thing about a simple lie. If it gives people someone to blame, they don't ask for the receipt. Yuna, Joon's girlfriend, stepped forward next. No shaking voice, no guilt on her face, just cold confidence from a woman who had already decided history belonged to her. He held me back for years, she said. I wasted my strongest seasons protecting someone who couldn't even protect himself. That line gave off the vibe of, I practiced this breakup speech while people were dying outside. But the moment she said it, the truth hit different. 6 months earlier, everyone called Yuna's growth monstrous talent. Her sword speed jumped, her reflexes sharpened, her level shot up so fast people started whispering that she was chosen by the apocalypse itself. Cute story but wrong invoice. Every time Yuna hit a new wall, Joon saw a panel only he could read. The panel said, Growth acceleration reward available. Transfer to party member Yuna. Owner growth reduced for 30 days. And every time Joon pressed yes. Not once, not twice, again and again. While Yuna's stats climbed like a boosted ranked account, Joon's own progress kept getting delayed, locked, and quietly eaten by the system. She thought she had a legendary training arc. Her training arc had an invisible investor. Back in the shelter, Yuna looked down at him like he had been an ankle weight. You survived because I allowed it. Joon's hand tightened around the torn sleeve at his wrist. For 1 second, he almost answered. Daeho cut him off. Don't let him manipulate you. That's what parasites do. This is the same Daeho who once became famous for holding the West Bridge during the Winter Siege. People called him brave. They called him humanity's shield. And sure, Daeho fought hard. That part was real. But under that bridge, Joon was lying behind a cracked generator with blood running from his nose, keeping a hidden safe house relay active, while the system drained his stamina every 10 seconds. The panel kept blinking. Sanctuary field active. Party defense increased by 40%. Owner stamina drain continuing. Daeho's shield didn't crack, because Joon was paying the bill from underground. But now Daeho stood there, rewriting history with professional confidence. This man didn't forget. He edited the memory until he looked better in it. Then Sena spoke from the side. My healing saved thousands. His support tricks barely mattered. And before we can even get comfortable, Mira does the same thing. Joon looks at his cousin, the one person blood should have made complicated, and tries to speak. Mira, you know I. She slaps his hand away before he can finish. Don't use family to guilt me. Looking back at all this, it's kind of like borrowing someone's Netflix for 3 years, changing the password, and calling them unemployed. Near the back, a little girl named Nari hugged a cracked water bottle to her chest. She was one of the shelter kids Joon used to sneak extra rations to. Her voice came out small. But he fixed the water filters. He fixed Shelter 4 when everyone got sick. Daeho turned on her instantly. Kids don't understand strategy. No, she understood clean water, but defending Joon had officially become dangerous. So Nari's mother pulled her back. That was the moment the crowd finished turning. Not because they had proof, because silence is easy when the person being punished has no power left. Yuna stepped closer. You always made people pity you. That was your real talent. Joon raised his head. His eyes moved from Yuna to Daeho, then to Sena, and finally to Mira. He wasn't looking for mercy anymore. He was checking if even one of them still had shame. Nobody moved, so he gave them the one truth their egos couldn't survive. You think you don't need me? But before he could finish, Yuna slapped him. From his face, it's clear he still couldn't believe it. Don't drag my name into your lies, she said. Now, if these people had watched even one Manhwa Origins recap, they'd know slapping the quiet system user right before the reset is how you speedrun consequences. Daeho pointed at the gate. Open it. 2 guards grabbed Joon under the arms. His legs dragged for the first few steps. Then he forced himself upright, not because he could win. He just refused to be carried to his own execution like luggage. Outside the barricade, the zombie horde slammed against the fence. Hands pushed through the gaps. Teeth snapped at empty air. The floodlights kept flickering, catching every face in ugly little flashes. Daeho watched without blinking. Sena folded her hands like this was sad, but needed. Mira stared at the floor. Yuna leaned close enough for only Joon to hear. You should be grateful. At least this way you're useful once. In Yuna's head, this wasn't murder. It was resource management. In Daeho's head, this wasn't betrayal. It was cutting off dead weight. In Sena's head, this wasn't cruelty. It was protecting the people who mattered. And in Mira's head, Silence was easier than admitting her whole life started with a debt she never paid. The gate opened. Cold rain blew in. The guards shoved him. Joon hit the mud outside, rolled onto his back, and saw Yuna one last time through the bars. She didn't cry. She looked relieved. At the edge of his sight, a pale, dying panel flickered. It read, "Owner vitality unstable. Party benefit contract still active." Even dying, the system was still trying to feed them leftovers. That almost made him laugh. The horde fell over him. Joon's fingers dug into the mud, closing around nothing. His final thought was simple. If I get another chance, none of them will ever receive another thing from me. Joon woke up to a cracked phone screaming beside his bed. No heavens, no dramatic prophecy, just a cheap alarm vibrating against the floor like it owed someone money. His hand shot out and grabbed it. The date on the screen hit harder than any zombie bite. 2 days before the acid rain, the first infected flood. 2 days before the world turned into a survival game with no pause button, and way too many spawn campers. Joon sat up. The apartment was small. The lights worked. The tap water was still safe. That last part made his breathing catch. He touched his face. No slap mark, no bite wounds, no mud under his nails. But the memory stayed clear. Yuna's hand across his face. Daeho calling him useful once. Mira looking away. Joon put the phone face down and raised his left hand. For half a second, nothing happened. Then a crisp neon blue admin panel opened above his wrist. The panel read, "Safe house system restored. Previous owner authority retained. Timeline rollback detected. Party benefit channels suspended pending owner decision." Joon didn't smile, not yet, because if he returned, someone else could have returned too. If Yuna remembered, she wouldn't just leave him. She would test him. If Daeho remembered, he wouldn't just mock him. He would move early. And if the whole team knew Joon remembered too, they wouldn't wait until the apocalypse to throw him away. They'd bury him before the weather report. So Joon did the smartest thing he had done in 2 lifetimes. He acted stupid. At noon, Joon sat inside the restaurant where he and Yuna were supposed to meet. The seat across from him stayed empty. 10 minutes passed, 20, then her text arrived. Something came up, "Don't wait." Old Joon would have panicked. Old Joon would have called immediately. Old Joon would have sprinted straight into the emotional bear trap, with flowers in one hand and no self-respect in the other. So that's what he performed. He called once, no answer. He sent one message, "Are you mad at me?" No answer. Then he stopped, because the act only needed to look real from her side. An hour later, his phone rang. Yuna. He let it ring twice before answering, because old Joon never had the patience to play cool. "Yuna, are you okay?" Her voice came through smooth. Too smooth. "Joon, let's end this." He made his breath catch. "What? Why?" "That's your first question. You skipped lunch and jumped straight to breakup." "Yeah, I have questions." A tiny pause. Yuna wasn't listening to the answer. She was listening to the shape of him, checking the panic, checking the confusion, checking if the dead man on the phone sounded like the one she had thrown away. Then she asked the real question. "Have you felt strange today? Dreams, memories, anything that feels wrong?" Joon stared at the system panel floating near his wrist. Then he gave her exactly what she wanted. "Yuna, you dumped me, and now you're asking if I'm haunted." Silence. Then Yuna exhaled, small and relieved. She had just asked a dead man if he remembered dying, and he answered like a guy, worried his girlfriend had joined a weird conspiracy group. So she relaxed. "I can't do this anymore," she said. "You're too dependent on me. I need people who can stand beside me, not someone I have to drag." Joon lowered his eyes. His thumb bent the edge of the phone case. "Please don't do this." Exactly the old version of him she wanted to hear. Yuna sighed like she was the one carrying the tragedy. "I hope you grow up someday." The call ended. Joon kept the phone against his ear for 3 more seconds. Then he placed it face down on the table. Then his breathing changed. The system panel brightened. It read, "Former partner Yuna has severed emotional bond. Shared benefit authority, pending owner approval." Joon looked at the empty chair across from him. She remembers. No shouting, no public breakdown, just one quiet sentence from a man who had already died once and wasn't handing out free previews. He tapped the panel. "Do not restore shared benefits." Yuna's name dimmed. 1 thread cut. 5 still left. Across the city, Yuna lowered her phone. Daeho stood by the window. Sena sat with a notebook open. Mira leaned against the wall, pretending she didn't care. Kang and Hyejin watched Yuna like she was reading exam results. Daeho asked, "Well?" Yuna smiled. "He didn't come back." The room exhaled, not from grief, but from relief. These people had returned from the end of the world with future knowledge. Raid routes, shelter locations, and the confidence of speedrunners starting New Game Plus. And they believed the only person who missed the reset was the freeloader. Daeho nodded like the universe had personally endorsed his ego. Makes sense. The system rewarded the top-tier survivors with a do-over. The freeloader didn't qualify. Kang laughed first. "So the useless one stays useless. Nice." Sena closed her notebook. "That helps us. We wasted too much food and medicine on him last time. Mira's mouth tightened, but didn't argue. Daeho tapped the map. Good, acid rain starts in 2 days. First outbreak hits the eastern blocks by night. We claim Shelter 1 before the civilian wave reaches it. After that, the hospital cache, the water tower, and the underground route to Central Fortress. They had the steps, they had the confidence, they had the old map in their heads. The problem was, their walkthrough was missing the guy who opened half the doors. Yuna crossed her legs. We don't contact Joon. If he panics, let him. If he survives the first stage, maybe we use him later as bait. Sena gave a small laugh. That sounds harsh, but she didn't say no. Funny how that works. People love calling something harsh right before agreeing with the whole plan. Daeho looked at Mira. You're not going soft, are you? Mira looked down. He's still my cousin. Yuna's expression cooled. In the last timeline, did being his cousin stop him from dragging us down? That was the bait. Mira took it because shame is easy to weaponize. No, she said. Daeho clapped once. Then we move clean. Move clean, that's what they called it. Not betrayal, not theft, not using future knowledge built on someone else's sacrifice. Move clean. This is Dollar Tree villain language with premium packaging. Hyejin, the quietest one, tapped Shelter 1 on the map. What about his safe house skill? Even if it was weak, he had some connection to shelter panels. Daeho waved it off. Low-grade maintenance. We only kept him because we didn't know better. Sena nodded. The rewards went to the actual fighters anyway. Yuna's face sharpened. Exactly. We cleared the raids, people followed us. Joon just stood near panels and acted useful. And there it was. The lie upgraded itself in real time. Because Joon's support never looked dramatic. They didn't know that while they ranked up. He was just being shadow. He didn't split monsters in half. He didn't heal children under a spotlight. He didn't give speeches on burning walls. He touched panels. He managed doors. He moved resources. He paid hidden costs. He turned impossible shelters into working shelters, while everyone else got titles that sounded better at dinner. So the team looked back and decided the invisible parts didn't matter. People will climb a ladder, kick it down, and call themselves experts in gravity. Daeho circled Shelter 1 in red. This time, no charity cases. We take everything early, level faster, and become stronger than before. Yuna leaned back. Without Joon holding us down, humanity won't just survive. She smiled wider. We'll rule what's left. Please understand the delusion in this room. They had future knowledge for 20 minutes and already sounded like startup founders after one podcast. Meanwhile, the actual hidden founder was sitting alone with the admin panel open. Joon stood over a city map with 6 locations circled. Shelter 1, East Hospital, Water Tower, Old Subway Route, Central Fortress Foundation Site, and one mark nobody else knew. Founder's Storage. He didn't rush. That was the difference now. The first timeline trained him to react to everyone else's emergencies. Yuna needed growth, so he gave rewards. Sena needed stronger healing, so he paid recovery costs. Mira needed awakening, so he spent experience he never got back. Daeho needed safe routes, so Joon upgraded doors in silence. Every crisis became another excuse to cut a piece off himself and hand it over. Not this time. A new panel opened over the map. It read party benefit channels detected from previous timeline. Restore access. Below it, 6 names waited. Yuna, Daeho, Sena, Mira, Kang, Hyejin. Joon looked at them for a long second. His finger moved once. Reject all. The names dimmed one by one. Just a quiet tap that did more damage than any punch he could throw right now. Another panel appeared. It read first owner registration available. Shelter 1 unclaimed. Register authority now. Joon's eyes stayed on the words. Shelter 1, the exact place Daeho had just circled, the exact place the team believed would open for them like history, owed them customer service. A second warning appeared underneath. Registered shelters cannot share benefits with severed party members unless manually approved by the owner. For the first time since waking up, Joon smiled. Not wide, not crazy, just the tiny smile of a man watching 6 traitors argue with an automatic door 2 days early. His finger hovered over confirm, then pressed down. The panel flashed once. Shelter 1 owner registration complete. And just like that, the invisible support stopped auto-sharing. Joon's first stop wasn't a weapon store. That's how you know he actually understood the apocalypse. Amateurs buy guns first because guns look cool in profile pictures. Joon bought water filters, acid-proof tarp, old copper mesh, sealed batteries, burn gel, and industrial tape strong enough to hold together a bad decision. Boring stuff, ugly stuff, the kind of supplies nobody respects, until the rain starts melting through cheap umbrellas. He was loading the last box when a familiar voice cut across the aisle. Joon, of course, Yuna, because apparently even the apocalypse had decided this breakup needed a season 2. Yuna stood near the entrance with Daeho behind her, dressed like they were already posing for humanity's future statue. Kang carried 2 weapon cases and wore the expression of a guy who thought owning tactical gloves counted as a personality. Yuna's eyes moved over Joon's cart. Filters, tape, medicine, canned food. She smiled a little, not kindly, worse, like she had just found proof for a lie she already wanted to tell. Panic shopping? She asked. Joon looked at the cart, then back at her. Camping? Daeho laughed. You don't camp. Joon shrugged. I might start. Yuna stepped closer, lowering her voice just enough to sound personal, while still making sure everyone nearby could hear. Joon, breakups are hard, I get that. But buying half a disaster aisle because I left you is not healthy. There it was. Yuna didn't just want him gone. She wanted the room to agree he was unstable. That was her real talent. Not sword speed, not leadership, brand management. She could take a man buying water filters and turn it into emotional evidence. Joon kept his face loose, confused, a little embarrassed. Exactly what she expected. I'm not doing this because of you. Yuna gave him that soft, fake-said look people use when they want sympathy for being cruel. Then return it, go home, sleep. Stop making people worry. People, as if she hadn't already told half the old team not to answer if he called. As if this wasn't the same woman who watched him get pushed into a zombie horde and looked relieved when the gate shut. Manhwa Origins public service announcement. When the ex who murdered you starts giving gentle advice in a hardware aisle, don't take the coupon. Kang reached toward one of Joon's boxes. What's even in here? Joon's hand landed on the box first. Still calm and quiet. Paid items. Kang smirked. Relax, we're just checking. The old shop owner behind the counter looked up from his receipt book. You check after you buy. Kang turned. Do you know who we are? The old man slapped the receipt book against Kang's cheek so fast. Even Daeho blinked. I know you're blocking my aisle, the owner said. Kang's face went red, but Yuna lifted one hand. Leave it, we have better supplies to collect. She looked at Joon's cart again, and almost laughed. Filters and tape, you never changed. That line told Joon everything. In her head, survival meant weapons, levels, titles, and applause. The boring parts were beneath her, which was funny, because the boring parts were exactly why she had survived the first time. Yuna left with the flashy gear. Joon left with the parts that made doors obey. That is the difference between a player chasing loot and a player reading patch notes. At the pharmacy, Joon found another problem wearing a familiar face. Sena was already there. The future saint of the shelters had cleared a shelf of antibiotics and painkillers into 2 bags. Yuna stood beside her, because apparently betrayal came with a buddy system now. Near the counter, Nari's mother was counting coins with one hand, while Nari hugged a tiny backpack to her chest. The clerk pushed 2 acid masks across the counter. You're short. Nari's mother swallowed. Can I take one now and pay for the second tomorrow? The clerk didn't answer. He didn't have to. People get very honest when stock is limited. Yuna noticed Joon watching. Her mouth curved. Oh, here we go. Sena glanced over. What? Yuna tilted her head toward Nari. Joon's about to buy affection again. Joon didn't respond. He stepped forward, placed cash on the counter, and took the 2 masks, burn gel, and a small purifier cartridge. Then he crouched just enough to put the bag beside Nari's shoes. For your mom, he said. Nari's fingers closed around the strap. Thank you. Yuna clicked her tongue. You really can't help yourself, can you? Joon stood. No. The word came out flat enough that Yuna's eyes narrowed. For half a second, she couldn't tell if he meant he couldn't help being kind, or he couldn't help remembering. So she tested him again. You know, if you're trying to prove you're useful, this is sad. Joon looked at her like the sentence had arrived from far away. I'm buying medicine. Sena gave a small laugh. Medicine doesn't save anyone if the healer is weak. Founder's storage was under an abandoned subway kiosk, behind a maintenance locker nobody had cared about in 10 years. He arrived there later that same day, this time with 30 hours to spare. The neon blue panel opened as soon as his palm touched the lock. Storage activated. See, here's the mechanical part the old team never cared about. A safe house didn't open because someone was famous. It opened because an owner claimed it, paid the resource cost, maintained the ledger, and approved who received benefits. Last timeline, Joon did all of that in silence. His teammates walked through locked doors like VIPs and thought the universe had good manners. Now the owner was still Joon. The ledger was still his. The party channel was gone. That door was about to treat them like strangers with attitude. While Joon installed the first core, Yuna was turning the future into a group project, with herself as the lead. She pointed at Shelter 1 on the map. We move before the civilian wave. Daeho handles the front. Kang keeps people back. Sena takes medical priority. Mira scouts the east route. Hyejin watches for route changes. Daeho frowned a little. You're giving orders now. Yuna smiled without looking up. I'm making sure we don't repeat old mistakes. That shut him up, because everyone in the room knew what she meant. Joon, Yuna had made made him the symbol of every delay, every loss, every bad night, every mistake she didn't want to own. That is how she stayed clean. Put all the dirt on one person, then act shocked when your hands look spotless. Mira shifted near the wall. What if he really doesn't survive the first rain? Yuna's pen stopped. For a second, her face gave nothing away. He survived last time because he was attached to us. Sena nodded. Without us, he won't last long. Yuna looked down at the map. Exactly, but her finger tapped the table twice. Small but sharp. She was still thinking about the pharmacy, about the way Joon answered, about how he bought the boring items first. Yuna hated that tiny doubt, so she crushed it with pride. The system gave the real survivors a second chance, she said. We use it better this time. There's the lie again. Clean, motivational, and ready for a LinkedIn post at the end of the world. Joon slotted the emergency core into a metal case under his floor. The neon blue panel expanded over the map. It read primary safe room active, acid seal stable, remote shelter 1 intake control linked. Civilian intake mode locked until weather event begins. He exhaled once, not relief, more like his body finally believed the plan had bones. Another panel opened beneath it. Severed party members flagged. Manual override required for access. 6 names appeared again. Yuna, Daeho, Sena, Mira, Kang, Hyejin. Joon stared at Yuna's name the longest. That was the part he hated, not because he wanted her back, because some old part of him still remembered choosing her first. In the first timeline, every emergency had her name on it. Give Yuna the growth reward. Give Yuna the safer route. Give Yuna the better blade. Give Yuna the final cure dose. Again and again, until love stopped looking like love and started looking like unpaid labor. Joon closed the list. Keep them flagged. The panel obeyed. The first sign wasn't rain. That's what most people remembered wrong. The first sign was the mist. A thin chemical haze rolled low through the streets before the clouds broke. Joon knew because in the first timeline, he watched 3 blocks get burned before anyone understood umbrellas were a joke. This time, he had already sealed the vents. Across town, Yuna's team stood 2 streets from Shelter 1, with 50 civilians behind them. They looked prepared, matching rain gear, packed weapons, medical bags, very clean, very cinematic, and completely missing the point. Yuna raised her voice. Stay close. Shelter 1 opens after the first rain event. If you follow us, you'll live. That line worked. People followed because confidence is a drug, and Yuna was handing it out in bulk. Daeho leaned near her. See, no Joon slowing us down. Yuna watched the shelter roofline in the distance. This is how it should have been. Then the first drop hit a parked car. The paint bubbled. A second drop landed on a man's sleeve, and he screamed before he even understood why. A pigeon fell off a power line. The street lost its mind in 12 seconds. Joon's panel lit up inside his safe room. Acid rain stage 1 confirmed. Primary safe room sealed. Shelter 1 civilian intake available. He looked at the smaller camera feed from Nari's street. Nari's mother pulled the mask over Nari's face with shaking hands. The purifier cartridge clipped into place. The kid lived through the first minute because Joon had spent cash, while Yuna spent judgment. That was enough for now. Joon tapped the Shelter 1 feed. Hold intake until the crowd reaches the door. Shelter 1 looked exactly like the old team remembered. Same steel entrance, same wall panel, same emergency markings. Daeho walked up like he owned it, which was bold because the door had paperwork proving otherwise. He placed his palm against the panel, open under survivor leader authority. The panel woke up, crisp neon blue, then a red denial stamp cracked across it. Access denied. No owner authority detected. Daeho blinked. Kang stepped forward. Try the old phrase. Hyejin whispered, not in front of them. Too late. Daeho lowered his voice and said the emergency phrase they remembered from the first timeline. The panel answered, previous timeline phrase invalid. Active owner signature required. The civilians behind them started shouting. Yuna moved fast because that's what made her dangerous. She didn't panic out loud. She took control of the narrative before the facts could. The door rules changed, she said. Back up, let me check it. She put her hand on the panel. For 1 second, the neon blue light scanned her palm. Then the screen shifted. Applicant Yuna detected. Growth acceleration bond, revoked. Shelter benefit access, revoked. Owner approval required. Yuna's hand went still. She remembered Joon standing at shelter doors, always touching panels, always saying, I'm just checking something. She remembered rolling her eyes. She remembered telling him to hurry. Back then, she thought he was trying to look useful. Now the door was asking for the thing only he had ever provided. Daeho grabbed her arm. What does it say? Yuna pulled her hand back before he could read the full panel. Nothing, it's recalibrating. This woman could see her entire future cracking. Yet she still tried to PR manage the door. Kang slammed his fist against the panel. Opened. The panel stayed calm. Unauthorized force detected. Penalty warning issued. Kang hit it again. A thin blue pulse snapped from the wall and threw him backward onto the pavement. The crowd saw that. Fear changed direction. A woman holding a burned child pushed toward Daeho. You said this shelter was safe. Daeho raised his hands. It is, we just need a second. She slapped him across the face, screaming, My son got burned following you. That one hit better than any sword strike. Because Daeho could block monsters, he could not block accountability. Yuna stepped between them. Everyone calmed down. There is another entrance. There was, not for them, but there had been one in the first timeline because Joon opened it from inside the system network. Hyejin's voice dropped. Yuna, if it needs an owner signature. Yuna turned on her. Don't say it. Now we're cooking. Because smart viewers already know what Hyejin was about to say. If Shelter 1 had an owner, and the owner wasn't them, and the only person connected to shelter panels was the man they called useless, then their whole new game plus route just got patched by the guy they deleted from the party. Inside his safe room, Joon watched the access log update in real time. Unauthorized access attempts detected from Daeho, Kang, Yuna, and Hyejin. A second line appeared, Sena and Mira within restricted radius. A third line followed, civilian intake Q. 184. Severe acid exposure detected among unregistered civilians. Joon's hand hovered over the panel. There it was, the first real choice. If he kept the door shut, the traitors suffered. But civilians suffered with them. And Joon was not them. That mattered. He selected a different option. Open civilian side intake. Exclude severed party members. The panel accepted it. Resource cost will be deducted from owner reserve. Of course it would. The system always charged him. Joon pressed confirm anyway. A side entrance opened 20 meters down the wall. The crowd surged. Yuna saw it first. Move. She grabbed Mira's wrist and ran with the civilians. For half a second, she thought she had saved it. Same old instinct. Find the opening. Take the benefit. Rewrite the story later. But when Yuna reached the side gate, the neon blue barrier dropped in front of her like a glass wall. The civilians passed through. Nari and her mother made it in. A burned office worker made it in. A crying old man made it in. Yuna did not. The panel beside the entrance read, "Severed party member access denied." Yuna stared at the words. Severed, not unknown, not unregistered. Severed. That meant someone had cut the connection on purpose. Daeho reached the gate and hit the same barrier. Sena tried next. Denied. Mira stood frozen behind them, rain burning tiny holes through her sleeve. For once, nobody had a speech ready. Yuna slowly turned back toward the main panel. Her face stayed controlled, but her fingers curled hard enough to turn pale. She knew, not fully, not with proof, but enough. Joon, she whispered. The old team had not lost a freeloader. They had lost the account holder, and the subscription just expired. Joon's panel opened a new request. Former partner Yuna requesting emergency shared benefit restoration. Under it, a voice message appeared. Yuna's voice came through the speaker, still trying to sound calm, while acid rain hammered the shelter wall behind her. Joon, if this is you, open the door. No apology, no explanation, straight to command, even locked outside in poison rain. Her first instinct was still to talk like access belonged to her. Joon looked at the request. His face didn't change. Outside Shelter 1, a new sound rolled through the street. Not zombies scratching, not civilians screaming. Something heavier. The system panel on Joon's wall flashed red. Stage 1 mutation detected near Shelter 1. Screamer class infected approaching. Yuna heard it too. Her eyes finally left the panel. The screamer walked out of the rain with its mouth split too wide, dragging claws across the asphalt like it was sharpening knives for fun. In the first timeline, the team survived this monster because Joon's sanctuary field boosted their defense, and Sena's healing output. This time, the field was off. The healer was normal. The door was locked, and Yuna's request was still blinking on Joon's screen. Restore shared benefits. Joon looked at the button. Yuna stood outside in the acid rain, finally staring at a future that didn't recognize her. And this is where we pause the panel, because if Yuna wants emergency access from the man she fed to zombies, she's going to need a better strategy than pressing the ex-girlfriend panic button. Drop the like if you want to see whether Joon lets her fight that screamer with no buffs, no shelter, and no borrowed plot armor. Because Manhwa Origins is absolutely not letting this woman gaslight an automatic door for free. Hit the bell before the screamer reaches the gate. And I am out.